what's up everybody, welcome back. So as you can see, today I have a pretty interesting video for you guys who really want to see how different video cards perform, but in particular the GTX1660Ti from ASUS, their ROG STRIX model, which is a pretty nice little card. Now, how good is it exactly? That's what we're gonna try and find out in today's video. So check out some of the quick little B-roll footage I shot, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it. You know, is it worth the money? It's around like 350 euros here in East Europe, and yeah, should you buy it or not? So if you're interested in that, stick around. So where do we begin with the GTX1660Ti? I mean, let's be honest here, it came out of the blue, kind of like a shocker a little bit, that Nvidia is pretty much like refreshing these 1070s, right? The 1070 lineup, which is neat, I guess, but there's not a lot of difference between the two GPUs, because they both use the Turing GPU architecture, so they're pretty much very similar cards. In terms of performance, you know, one card might be a few frames ahead of the other in one test and vice versa. So I mean, it is pretty much similar in terms of performance. Now, in price, I checked out here in East Europe, it costs around 350 euros. And the cheap 1660 Ti's go for around 280 euros. So, I mean, in short, I would have hoped that this video card would have went to the 1060 range, somewhere maybe 200 to 250 euros for the ASUS STRIX model, but 350 euros, I mean, it's still a pretty decent price, I guess, considering that the cooling solution is like really a top-end cooling solution for pretty much any video card. So yeah, coming to the cooling solution itself, I mean, it's pretty much exactly the same that the RTX video cards use. So I am using in my own PC at the moment the ASUS ROG STRIX RTX 2080 Ti, and looking at these cards pretty much side by side, they are using the exact same heatsink pretty much. I guess there might be a little bit of a difference, but to me it looked pretty much the same. And that is awesome, because the new cooling solution is using the brand new axial deck fans, right? Which, well, they have made the hubs of the motors, the fan hubs of the motors, a little bit smaller than they were on the previous generation, which helps improve airflow. You know, a lot more air can come through to push down on the heatsink itself, and the heatsink itself is bigger as well. And it, of course, uses ASUS's max contact technology, so the GPU can get even better contact with the heatsink, which is really nice. So it helps a lot of in the cooling department, right? And yeah, overall, how does this cooling solution work? So the fans only turn on when the video card reaches 55 degrees Celsius. So if your video card stays below that, the fans don't turn at all. It's a passively cooled video card for most of the time. If you have pretty much any airflow in your case at all, your fans will not turn on when you're just browsing the web or doing your, you know, everyday work or something like that. So that's really nice, because that means that your PC will be whisper quiet. Well, at least for the video card, when you're doing, you know, regular stuff, you know, and that's really nice. You want to sit next to a really quiet PC and, you know, just be with your thoughts, or maybe play some nice music. Of course, then it won't matter if it's quiet, right? But overall, I mean, the cooling solution is absolutely amazing. And while turning on some video games, right, playing some games, the video card's temperatures, you know, it varies, right, what fan profile you actually use. You know, you can turn your fans to be a little bit louder to keep the video card a little bit cooler, but for me, most of the time it was like between 60 to 70 degrees, and it was still whisper quiet. The fans like hardly turned on at all. And that's an amazing technology, amazing job from ASUS, in my opinion, because one thing that the fans won't turn, that's a little an extra plus, right? But the other thing that we don't really think about is if the fans hardly ever turn, and if they turn really, really slow. That means the lifespan of these fans is just absolutely incredibly long, which is really, really nice. So I mean, overall, I'm really, really impressed about how ASUS year by year, you know, improves their cooling solution, air cooling. So you wouldn't even have to think about water cooling or something like that. So that's neat. And yeah, overall the design itself is really nice, although it might, you know, tend to get a little bit boring after seeing year after year after year pretty similar design. But it's still really nice looking card, right? And it has a really nice backplate as well. Plus, kind of a little bonus here is that ASUS uses a rigid frame, also an extra frame in the video card, a metal frame, to further, you know, improve the rigidness of your video card, so it wouldn't bend like some of the video cards out there. So that's a pretty nice extra little feature. And yeah, quickly a few little things. Of course, it does have ASUS Aura Sync technology, Aura Sync RGB, right? So you can choose whatever colors you wanna put on the video card, and it will light up in the appropriate color, right? And there's a few little modes as well to choose from, you know, do you put it, you know, a breathing or a wave or a static color, so that's pretty neat. But I want to mention to anybody in ASUS's technology department watching, please add more modes. It has had, like, I can read on my one hand how many different modes there are in terms of RGB colors, right? And that's been like this for like years now, I think. So hopefully ASUS's RGB department, you know, makes more RGB modes for the card. But anyway, you know, after the RGB stuff, what's more to talk about here is, I guess, well, there are a couple of really interesting buttons behind the card. So one is you can simply, you know, a physical button to turn off the RGB system, so if you don't want any RGB, any lights at all. So that's a little neat little thing to see. But the other one is a switch, which is the most interesting thing maybe. So you can actually choose between two different BIOSes. So one is a performance BIOS and one is a silent BIOS. They're not performance in terms of you know, how fast it is or how huge overclock it has. But it's a BIOS for the fan curves. So if you feel you want a cooler video card, although it is already really cool, then you can select the performance BIOS, so the fan curves are a little bit more aggressive. And if you want a quieter card, you think your temperatures are just fine, you know, then use the silent BIOS. So really good feature, and I think I talked about this like years ago in one of my reviews, that wouldn't it be nice if, you know, video cards had a physical switch, so I could switch between BIOSes what I want. If I want one BIOS to be an overclocking BIOS, like the fans are always like really high or something like that, then I could, you know, switch between those. That would be nice, and now we have them. So yeah, that's a neat little feature here. And I mean, overall, that's kind of gonna be it for the features. It has two HDMIs and two display boards as well, pretty much all that you need, right? And it has a 8-pin power connector. Kind of was maybe hoping that there wouldn't be any, you know, power connectors needed, but it still has one, so I guess it's fine. But anyway, coming to the benchmarks. So I have a pretty long video coming here, I guess, but I did live benchmarking for you guys, so you can actually see frame by frame how the video card performs in different types of really popular games at the moment. So if you're interested in that, stick around, because I'm gonna be running really long gaming sessions, and I might in the future, you know, with brand new cards, maybe top end cards, I might do them a little bit longer, you know, different resolutions, different quality settings, and yeah, that video would be pretty long. Anyway, check out how the card performed in different kind of benchmarks on my test PC, which is a Core i5-8600K stock, and of course 16 gigs of DDR4 memory. That's pretty much what you need to know, right? So check out the results here, and I'll be seeing you real quick. Alright guys, so time for some benchmarking, and yeah, I have opened CPUs and GPUs up here to check some stuff out, and I am running my Core i5-8600K on default frequency, and of course the same goes for the GTX1660Ti. And of course we can check out, you know, what the temperatures are doing. At the moment it's idling around 48 degrees, which is really cool. But yeah, later we're gonna be checking back here and see what the maximum temperatures went when we, you know, finished all our testing and stuff like that. So it should be pretty interesting stuff here. But 48 degrees is really good, considering, as you can see, the fans are not turning at all. It's totally passive at the moment. It kind of gets some airflow from my all-in-one water cooling solution here, but I don't have my case window up here, so the airflow is kind of mixed. Some people might maybe even, oh, but your air comes from here, but these fans are not sucking any air from here, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how cool the card actually is. I mean, ASUS has done an incredible job with this cooler. I so love it. It's so whisper quiet even when it, you know, turns on when we're gonna be playing some games. And I wanted to, you know, capture some screen recordings for you, but my shadow play is broken for some reason. I hit my record button, but nothing really happens. The record button that usually has a green circle in it doesn't have it anymore. It's an empty circle now. I don't. First time ever I'm experiencing something like that. But anyway, for the games, what we're gonna be testing out today is gonna be Apex Legends, and it's gonna be Grand Theft Auto 5, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Battlefield 5, 3D Marks, and Tom Clancy's The Division. And if I manage to, you know, push Fortnite in, if the video won't go a lot longer, then we're gonna quickly check out Fortnite as well, you know, what the frame rate we can expect from a Core i5-8600K with a GTX 1660 Ti. So let's begin things off with Apex Legends. Alright, so Apex Legends, and yeah, you can see the frame rate on the top right corner of the screen. I'm gonna be, you know, zooming into it a little bit, I guess, so you guys could see the frame rate a little bit better, but this is going to be how I'm gonna be testing my games here. We're gonna be doing some really quick tests, so nothing too extensive, but you kinda get the idea how the game actually runs. So in the settings menu, we're gonna be using these kind of settings, pretty much everything to the max detail, except for anti-aliasing, right? We're gonna be disabling that. But I'm gonna be using 2560x1440 for my resolution for all my games that I'm gonna be testing today. Because this video card, you know, the GTX 1660, I mean, it's not 1660 Ti, it's not really meant for 4K gaming. You can, you know, game on 4K, but you need to, I guess, disable all the quality settings or put them, you know, on the lower settings, and even then, you know, it might not really work really well. But 2560x1440 is pretty perfect resolution for this type of a video card that is, you know, around GTX 1070 performance levels. Yeah, I'm running this on the ASUS ROG's BG27U, I think it was. BG27U, yeah, that's it. It is the 4K 144Hz screen with G-Sync, HDR and stuff like that. It's a really amazing monitor. I'm gonna be making a review from this monitor soon as well. But yeah, I'm not gonna be using 4K. So anyway, I talk a little bit too much at times. But let's quickly run in the game and check the FPS and, you know, get to the next game, so my video won't be like half an hour long. But anyway, 85 frames per second here in this training level. and I'm gonna be using this same exact level, I guess, for all my benchmarking. I think, because I'm not making any, dabs with some numbers, I'm gonna be showing live frame rate, and yeah, 85 inside here, 85 frames per second, 109, over 60 frames per second on 2560 times 1440, and 72 frames per second when outdoors here, and it really doesn't dip below that. So perfectly over 60 frames per second for Apex Legends, which is really nice at maximum detail. So if you do have a 144 Hz screen, I guess, disabling some stuff in the settings would help. Maybe I could try this out actually. But yeah, about 70 plus frames per second here in the outdoors is just perfectly fine for gaming. Really smooth for regular, gaming. But yeah, if you have a 144 Hz screen, could we actually get near that FPS? Pretty much. Let's put everything to the lowest settings. We can leave anisotropic filtering on. That doesn't hinder our performance. Disable absolutely everything. I don't know if I need to restart my game or anything. Let's see. We didn't. And it's 95. 95. It didn't really go up that much, which is pretty odd. Now I could have, done some testing on 1080p as well, but I believe, the CPU will affect the scores a little bit too much. And I think like 2560 times 1440 is perfect for a video card at this caliber, right? But yeah, 100 frames per second on the lowest settings here, 144 frames per second, so I can have the full benefit of a 144 Hz screen, but not when I get outside. 115, 109, 100. So I guess around 100 frames per second, when you turn everything to the lowest settings on 2560 times 1440. I guess, if I go even lower, let's actually see. Let's put 1080p for a quick little second and see how much our frame rate improves here. And it's 137 frames. So this is pretty much perfect for your 144 Hz screen, 1080p screen. So if you want to play really competitively, 144 frames per second is no issue for the ASUS ROG's GTX1660 Ti. Perfectly fine, and gets near 144 frames per second. And I guess when you overclock a little bit, you could actually hit over 144 frames per second all the time, constantly, to get the full benefits of a 144 Hz screen. So really well, plays really well. But anyway, let's move on to the next game, and let's quickly open up Fortnite as well, because it's like a competitor to this, and yeah, let's quickly see how it plays there. So Fortnite here running and 270 frames per second here in the main menu, but yeah, 2560 times 1440, but let's put everything to epic detail. VSync off, right, motion blur, whatever. Show FPS, yeah, I guess. Oh yeah, we can see some FPS here as well. But yeah, 2560 on epic detail. Let's apply, and pretty much let's head into a game. 96 frames per second here in the main menu. And let's just hit play, and let's quickly go into the game and check out, how our frame rate, fares in the beginning of the game here. Alright, so nice to see some green over a long winter session, and 67 frames per second, over 60 frames per second on 2560 times 1440, which is, it's not bad, but from Fortnite I was kinda maybe expecting a little bit more. 69, but it is a beautiful map here. There's lots of detail everywhere. 74, totally fine. All right, let's jump out. Oh, so we have like different seasons here. Oh, this is so cool. So we can go into a nice little green forest here, or to the tundra, or to the desert there, right? But yeah, I guess let's try and take the graphics down, and let's see how much we can, you know, improve our frame rate from 60 frames per second on this resolution, right? And 200 frames. Alright, this card really doesn't have any problems playing Fortnite. Well, maybe a little bit problems on maximum detail because we couldn't get over 144 frames per second there. But you know, if you wanna enjoy your 144 Hz screen in Fortnite, totally doable at 2560 x 1440. Just that you have to, you know, wiggle around with the settings. On the lowest settings we are getting like 180 frames per second here, 60, 189, almost 200 frames per second. One thing quickly, let's try out let's try out 1080p as well on the lowest settings here. Let's see what happens. And frame rate is about the same, so it is capped by the CPU here, I guess. But let's go back to 2560, or no, let's stay at 1080p, right? And let's put everything to epic detail. This should give us a little bit better result, maybe 100 frames per second. It's again like 30% better performance on 1080p than on 2560, which is pretty nice, but still, you know, not, you know, 144 frames per second or something like that. Yeah, we're missing like 40% of performance to fully utilize 144 Hz screen. It's kinda sad, so we need to play Fortnite, I guess, on like some medium high settings or something like that. And yep, that's exactly what we need to do. 144 frames per second, 130. Yep, I guess that's it for Fortnite. Alright, so that's kind of quickly gonna conclude my Fortnite testing here. And yeah, let's move on to the first proper AAA game, and let's check out how this video card performs in, you know, Ubisoft's latest greatest title, Tom Clancy's The Division 2. So finally in The Division 2's main menu, where we're gonna be running through the in-game benchmarking mode. So should be pretty interesting stuff, because we're not gonna really play around here. And to keep my video a little bit shorter here, we're just gonna be using the maximum settings, maximum detail settings at 2560 x 1440, so you can definitely tweak here and there. I mean, lower the resolution like I showed in Apex and in Fortnite, so you could actually get a little bit better result, a little bit better performance by doing all kinds of different things, right? But for today, we're just gonna be running everything on the most maximum settings here at maximum detail, right? And we're gonna be using 2560 times 1440p resolution, which should be pretty good benchmark for this type of video card on our Core i5. So I'm gonna be running benchmark here, and let's see how it fares. All right, so 45-53 frames per second in the beginning here, which is it's pretty decent, although it's not over 60. 44. Alright, well, this is a proper AAA game, right? It's not like Fortnite or Apex Legends, but yeah, Ubisoft has done an incredible job. This game looks absolutely stunning, you know. Graphics are absolutely amazing. There's a lot of detail, a lot of objects everywhere. So 42-44 frames per second here, pretty decent result for a Core i5, right? And this GTX1660Ti here. So dropping below 40, 37 here in the woods. I mean, yeah, definitely I'd recommend, you know, tweaking the graphical settings if you do, you know, decide to get this video card. Because yeah, in The Division 2, I mean, 35 frames per second, it's playable, but I wouldn't really play anything below 60 frames per second on PC with a mouse and keyboard. Now on, you know, console games, 30 FPS is pretty fine for most games actually with a controller. But yeah, on a PC you don't really want to play games under 60 frames per second. Like 40 plus is doable as well. but 30 is kind of pushing the limit. 38 frames per second, so I mean it's okay. Definitely if you know, maybe turn the resolution down, you can gain a little bit frames per second here. But I guess, you know, I left everything to the maximum detail, and as you could see, there's a lot of graphical settings there that you can, you know, tweak around with and get a, you know, better results. So I'm pretty sure we could actually push 60 plus FPS here if we, you know, fiddle around with the graphical options there. But this is the result for the most maximum detail. Now let's move on to the next game, which is gonna be Battlefield 5, and let's see how it fares there. Alright, so Battlefield 5 running here, and first things first, into the settings menu we go. And 2560 x 1440, but graphical settings, everything turned on to ultra settings with anti-aliasing at lowest levels. So should be pretty interesting to see how it performs here. And we're going to be using a single player campaign, a mission that I'm using all the time when doing my benchmarks here. And I'm doing this thing here. Let's just restart it, and let's see how the frame rate is at the beginning of this campaign level here. It's very rich in detail and stuff like that, so really nice to understand how good this video card will perform. And then let's mess about with the resolution and maybe some settings to see how the card actually fares. Alright, so 58, 53 frames per second here in this first little cutscene, in-game cutscene. 53 or 55 frames per second, so around 60 frames per second, I guess. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. 48 on the explosion here. Let's see how it plays for us as well. But yeah, look at the detail in this game. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Like Battlefield 5 looks really incredible. But anyway, 44, 46 frames per second. I mean, yeah, it's not that great. 43, it doesn't really drop below 40, right? But let's change things up a little bit. Let's see, in the video settings, right? What happens if we take the resolution down a little bit? Let's put 1080p. Let's put 1080p, and we can use 60 Hz, that's no problem. Apply video settings. So we had 45 frames per second. How much do we gain with simple resolution? Alright, 70. That's a lot of frames per second that we gained by just dropping the resolution down to 1080p. So perfectly over 60 frames per second here, which is pretty nice. Can move a little bit. Okay, 60 frames per second. Let's leave it here. 56, 69, 70. Okay, but let's turn all the graphical settings to the lowest settings. Low settings, and we gain a few frames per second. I guess CPU is bottlenecking here a little bit. So 100 frames per second. Yeah, still nothing do amazing here. On low detail at 1080p. Definitely, yeah, would have expected a little bit better frames per second here in Battlefield 5. Let's see. Let's put 144 frames per second. 144 Hertz, I mean. Alright. So 2560, 78, about 20% less performance on 2560 here, but it still plays like pretty smoothly. But then again, everything is absolutely on the lowest detail. I mean, yeah, Battlefield 5 is definitely pushing this video card here. I mean, 70 frames per second on the lowest detail. What is this? Okay. But yeah, so these are the settings that I was using here. But let's just put everything to ultra. Can we go into the custom menu here? All right, and let's take the anti-aliasing low and see. So 50 frames per second on the maximum detail settings. I mean, yeah, you can definitely play, but with the GTX1660 Ti, you won't really be benefiting from 144Hz screens, even on 1080p. So that's kind of a bummer. Definitely was expecting a little bit better performance from this card in Battlefield 5. That's a first shocker for me, actually. But then again, you know, okay, maybe I'm too accustomed to like RTX 2080 Ti and GTX 1080 Ti. Yeah, I mean, it's okay, but come on. Could have at least, you know, gotten 60 frames per second or something like that. But anyway, that's gonna be it for my quick little Battlefield 5 testing here. So let's move on to the next game and let's quickly run through Assassin's Creed Odyssey's benchmark mode as well. Alright, so Assassin's Creed Odyssey here, and quickly before, you know, I hit the benchmark button here, quickly in the options menu, I have 2560x1440p enabled here, and yeah, i5-8600K, right, 1660 Ti, 419.35 drivers, and yeah, of course, I'm using the ASUS ROG PG27U monitor here. But yeah, in the graphical settings, as you can see, I have turned pretty much everything to ultra detail. So yeah, everything on the maximum possible detail levels. So this is the settings that I'm gonna be using here, and yeah, let's hit benchmark and see how it fares. And yeah, if you're having any issues at home with frame rate, then definitely, you know, try, you know, adjusting the graphical quality, you know, turn something a little bit more down, or maybe try the lowest settings possible and then, you know, go from there or something like that. Or, you know, try lowering resolution. But anyway, let's see what happens here. So 35 benchmark, are you sure we want to quit? No. Alright, 43 frames per second here, 41, 42. Yeah, pretty low, 30, 27, 26. Unplayable. Oh yeah, it doesn't really fare well with the most highest settings, but of course, you know, it's a mid-range video card or so, maybe even a little bit lower now that, you know, RTX video cards are out, right? But still, 30 frames per second, it's not bad considering, you know, how nice looking Assassin's Creed Odyssey really is. And we have turned everything to the most maximum detail here. But yeah, 30 frames per second, yeah, would have hoped a little bit better. It's kind of a slideshow here. My eyes are getting messed up here. 26 frames per second. Definitely can't play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on the maximum settings on 2560x1440p. 31 frames per second. Yeah, it's not really to be for this video card here. But of course, if we, you know, turn down some of the settings, maybe even the resolution, we might, you know, get a better result. How much, I don't know. But yeah, for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna go through a million other tests as well, or settings. But if you're interested in future videos that I do go through different settings, like different resolutions and different graphical settings, like highest and lowest, please, you know, leave a reply down below in the comment section. But yeah, that's gonna be it for Assassin's Creed Odyssey here. Quickly, now let's move on to the final two benchmarks, and let's run through Grand Theft Auto 5 first and see how it fares there, and then let's run 3D Mark and Time Spy as well. Alright, Grand Theft Auto 5, let's head into the settings here, and yeah, everything to the most maximum detail settings, 2560x1440, and these are the settings that I have turned on. Anti-aliasing off, of course, but everything else on the most highest settings possible, and even from the advanced graphical settings menu here. So let's hit benchmark here, and let's see. Now, Grand Theft Auto 5's benchmarking mode will have a nice benchmark, like frame rate counter, in the middle of the screen here as well. But of course, we can still, you know, look at the shadow play frame rate counter up on the right corner of the screen as well. But this should be interesting because a lot of you know, players all around the world still play Grand Theft Auto 5 a lot, and maybe gives us an idea where our PC might go with frames in Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 6. But 60 frames per second in the beginning here, 72, 50. And the game looks absolutely stunning to this day. That's absolutely incredible. It looks so good on PC. 26. Yeah, okay. It's definitely pushing some limits here. 27 frames per second. What in the world? Let's wait for this. Okay, seems good here. All right. But let's wait for the longest pass, right, and see what our frame rate would be, you know, in the middle of the city. But so far, I mean, yeah, it's comfortably, I guess, over 60 frames per second here. If we count out that one place where our frame rate dipped below 30, which was kind of odd, but yeah. All right, so here is the longest pass. Will be pretty interesting. 32, 28 frames per second. That is pretty low. Considering, yeah, okay, everything is turned up to the most maximum detail, right? The highest graphical detail. And we're running 2560 x 1440 resolution, but still GTA is still pretty low on FPS. 37, 36 frames per second. Yeah, I guess it's better if you know, play GTA 5 on either a lower resolution, right? Or 26, this can't be right. It's a little bit too low frames per second here. And 60, it's fine now. 60 frames per second, 72. Maybe I have some driver issues. Perhaps, I don't know. Very strange. But here, 70 plus. I guess this is the most normal situation, right? In the city driving around. 72, 70 frames per second. Over 60 frames per second, I guess. Which is pretty decent. You know, considering everything is turned to the maximum detail, and we're on 1440p, right? But definitely play around with the graphical settings again to maybe, you know, get the best out of your situation, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure at 1080p we're gonna hit another like 20 or 30% higher results here, but yeah, around 60 frames per second. Not bad, but definitely was expecting a little bit better results. Alright, so it actually, if I can get out in time, we could actually see the result, which goes to the documents folder here, Rockstar Games, GTA 5, and today's benchmark here, and the longest pass was 55 frames per second as average. So, I mean, totally fine, totally playable, and as you could see in the city itself, it ran perfectly fine, over 60 frames per second. But yeah, definitely, you know, try out different settings, maybe a lower resolution to maybe get near to that 144 frames per second mark. There's potential here, but still, I was expecting a little bit better results here. Anyway, yeah, let's move on to the final benchmark, which is gonna be Greedy Mark's Time Spy. Alright, so before I begin my Time Spy benchmark here, now that we've, you know, ran through pretty much all of our benchmarks, Let's quickly check what the temperatures did. So it's idling 45 degrees again here, which is totally fine, but maximum temperature was just 62 degrees. And did you hear the fan crank up while we were playing? No, right? It was whisper quiet while playing, while running through the benchmarks. Absolutely incredible cooling solution from ASUS here, and I guess this is also like pretty good, for you guys to, one thing is to watch a benchmark, run through, but seeing the video card, sitting here, not making any noise, seeing the real deal in action, right? I mean, it's an amazing video card. But anyway, yeah, let's run through time spy. Just gonna take it from here. Let's not include the demo, and let's see what we get for our time spy results here. Alright, so time spy benchmark finished here and 5,786 points, which is a totally fine score, I would say, for a 1070. Because 1080 Ti would get about 9,900 to 10,000 points exactly, which is kind of like 30 to 40% slower, right? And I guess the GPU score is worth mentioning here. It's 5,858 points with GPU test 1 37 frames per second and the GPU test 2 33 frames per second. So yeah, that's gonna be concluding my benchmarking here. Hope you guys enjoyed the videos here, and if you did, then leave some comments and feedback for me if you want to see something similar in future video card reviews. So hopefully that kinda helps you understand how good this video card is for your PC. Now all my tests were running on a pretty regular Core i5 processor, right? A decent gaming processor, so you kinda have a pretty good understanding how it will perform if you buy it now, right? But overall, I'm gonna be giving it a proper 9 out of 10 for the ASUS ROG STRIX GTX1660Ti. And there's not a lot of bad things to say about the card, except maybe, again, I guess this is always the thing that I talk about, is that it could be a little bit cheaper. I was hoping it to be at 200 to 250 euro range, but that 350 euros, it's still not a bad buy from off the shelf in a shop. And besides that, there's only positive things to say about the cards. The card, and yeah, one cool little feature that I maybe didn't talk about, I didn't maybe think to need to talk about it, but I'm gonna mention it anyway. It does have ray tracing. It's not an RTX card, but it has ray tracing, because Nvidia announced that most Turing cards will receive the option to enable RTX, so ray tracing in video games you can enable with this card as well, which is a nice little feature, although yeah, you won't be getting RTX video cards performance, so be prepared to take a big hit in terms of performance. It might not be that, it might not be that case or case, right? But I think it will. I think it will. So maybe if you're getting like 60 frames per second with this video card and you're gonna be enabling RTX, I think you'll be lucky to get away with 20 frames per second. So I don't know, it's still not out, so need to check back when it actually becomes available to be enabled in game. But yeah, ray tracing, it has the feature, but it's a Turing GPU, not really meant for ray tracing, so I wouldn't expect any insane amount of performance from it. But anyway, that's gonna be it for my video review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my quick little review, and yeah, stick around on my channel, subscribe, and leave a like if you liked the video, and if you have any questions about the card, leave them down below in the comment section. So yeah, thanks for watching, I'll see you soon guys, ciao for now.